3, 2, 1. Guys, let's be real. If you ask anybody working in corporate whether they enjoy it or not, they're probably gonna tell you something along the lines of, I don't feel empowered by my boss, there are so many corporate and bureaucratic structures in place that actually prevent me from doing the cool things I want to do, like innovate, or make me actually feel empowered that I'm being able to contribute in my job. That is the debate we're having, and we think that largely, because of their side, it becomes this whole chicken and the egg thing, whether or not it's really bureaucratic structures and sustainability that we need in order to have good innovation, or whether those things are precisely what stand in the way of that innovation. And we told you very clearly, coming from my speech earlier, that it particularly depends on the size of the corporation. Multinational corporations might have the money and freedom to be able to have all of these barriers in place in order to do the cool things that they like to do. Which is why my partner was correct in pointing out that sustainability, though is an awesome value, is not the most urgent or important thing we need to take care into this round, because startups exist. And that's exactly what you get from my speech earlier in the round. I talked to you about how particular startups, which are small, actually foster innovation and competition. The only reason why we get all of the amazing and cool things we have in society today is because startups had the capacity, empowered by the rise of SVC, to be able to allow all of these things to come to fruition. And a lot of what government side tells us is really off-clash. Why exactly? Firstly, because there's this weird line of attack of them saying it's going to lead to more bad things, exploitation, crappy working conditions. We think that it's only on our side when you actually are empowered by this culture that you get a support system, something I told you from my speech. But even without that, laws are still going to take place. It's unfair for their side to burden push us by saying, guys, you got to defend all these unfair labor practices. Everyone knows working in a startup is difficult. That's exactly why we need the rise of a culture to help people make a more informed decision about what they're getting into, something that we talked to you about from our bench. There are a few reasons why their side cannot take this debate. The first is, in terms of burden fulfillment and reading the motion and understanding, dare I say, the spirit of the motion. Because we tell you, sure, all of the processes they talked about are important, but they only argued insofar as large corporations are capable of to be able to subscribe to those things. But from my speech, we talked to you about things like regulatory oversight and ultimately regulatory capture, which is why you have all of these crappy incumbents and politicians and people in power genuflecting to those people who are in power and crapping on people like Elon Musk, people who are true visionaries and true entrepreneurs of actually making change and good things happen. The reason why all of these things aren't as proliferated as we want, things like AI, things like self-driving cars, things like e-vehicles, is precisely because of these processes that do exist. Sure, there may be a time and place for these things, but that's why we're having a debate, and we're telling you that if you retroactively look at it, it's done more harm than good. You've impeded these industries from going to market and being able to help people faster, which as a consequence stifles true innovation, which we told you is iterative in nature. You can't wait and say, I'll wait for a perfect time to be able to have the perfect product. Nah, you need a feedback loop that the partners talked about. You need to fail, you need to make mistakes, and you shouldn't be worried about that. You cannot be too sure. So for all of these reasons, there's a time and place for these processes, but it does more harm than good for small businesses, for big businesses, and ultimately makes it harder to make decisions, which is why we rather not have those things, and we think people rather be empowered from the ground up. For all these reasons, opposition win.